line to your lines, but we have this, muscle, obviously, that helps us because we do it every day, but often, we forget it. By the time we move on to the next script, it's like shedding skin. You shed the last script so you can focus on the next script, and then you're reading the next script to try to prepare for that. So you guys probably have much more of a deeper knowledge of the shows than we do.
Okay, great. Now, what I'd like to start off is like the evolution of getting involved with leverage. We'll take it with Gina first. When you first read the script and how the part came, and working with Dean and getting the parts. I think he's a fan of Jekyll originally.
That's right. Well, I've been in this business a long time, over 20 years, and I've had the privilege of doing lots of amazing different jobs, shows, plays, musicals, all kinds of stuff. But there are two moments in my career that really stood out in terms of first reading a script, because I think a lot of you guys were coupling fans. When I first read the script of Coupling, it was just before Christmas. It was 2 days before Christmas. And I loved that script so much, I carried it in my purse all through Christmas and New Year, and I just kept because all the offices were shut down, obviously I couldn't reach anyone, and I just kept it with me. And then the first day the offices went back on the 4th of January, I was like, I want to do this, I want to audition for this, you've got to get me in for this. And that was kind of how I felt, cut to however many years later when I read Leverage. I'd spent a little bit of time in the States, but I'd never really done a full pilot season. I'd never put myself on tape for anything from England before, but a lot of English actors do that. But at the time, this was just before people had iPhones and lots of video cameras, so it's quite a lot of effort to, at that time, go to a studio, hire an engineer to shoot you, and then hire an actor to read with you, and then send the tape by FedEx to the US. It was a big effort. But I did that with Leverage. I hired a friend of mine to do a Zoom with me, and I went to the studio and I put myself on tape. And, I knew that John really wanted me for the role, and Dee really wanted me for the role, but it still had to go through the TNT process. And I was just psyched, yeah.
And Beth, same thing. One of the things, I'll leave it regarding to Dean and John, say how you came into the room and you just walked in and stormed out and go, was she crazy? Or so what was the perspective of that initial going in and because on the truth?
Well, it was weird because at first Nate was written as a female character and they wanted me to play that role. I was like, nah, we can give it to Hudson. I went in, I was auditioning for a few pilots. The pilot season is always so crazy, so I got the script, the night before. I read it. I think I got it even late that night. I read it. I loved it, and then went into the audition. And apparently I think they had already tested for the role, and it didn't work out or something. I think, is that right?
No, you were up against another girl.
Oh, right, that was something. No, they had a bunch of rounds. They didn't film anything with someone else, but I think there were a few rounds before I got there, yes. And then we asked Steve's assistant, and he said yes. So they had a few rounds. I was in there. I did a pre-read for the casting director. Went back for John the same day. Dean was out of town, so he put me on tape for him. And then I had the call back. And then after that, it was testing for network pretty much. And the girl, there's always different types when you go back for jobs. You never know what they want. And especially with Parker, the description was so random and all over the place, and it was, everything contradicted everything else. Thanks, John. So I just went in and played, and I had fun. And it was funny because I went in for John, and we were talking. I did the read, and there was honestly 5 lines. Like my scene, everyone else was talking, and I was just kind of doing look at Elliot, a few lines. But afterwards, I started talking to him. Now, what do you think about this? Because I really like the character, and we started talking about things, and I kind of started more like this, and he goes, just whatever you're doing right now, go with it. Just trust it. And so then I actually went back up because I wasn't happy with my reading. This is, I think, at the callback. And he was in with somebody else, and I waited outside like a weirdo. And just go on, he would have told you. I was like, no, I just want to tell him one thing. And so he came out and I grabbed his shirt. And it was weird, I didn't do it, but I was like, no, listen, I can't really do this. I know this character, I can do this. I was just like, let me do it again. I had a brilliant idea and I want to do it. And he was like, I trust me. If I wanted something different, I would have told you. And then they brought me in, and they just made me feel very safe about the whole thing and said, trust your instincts from the get-go. So, I mean, I felt really good about it, and they were so supportive. And obviously, there were other girls, but for me, it was just so fun right off the bat, and so playful. But they liked what I did, I guess. And
What is the richness and quirkiness and coolness of the character? Was it fun, kind of just digging into it at first? And also, you contributed a lot, too, from what John said over time. You would do, like, a little snippet bit.
yeah, basically write my own things. So, yeah, I mean, the fun part is, for me, it's so non sequitur sometimes with Parker. And at first, there wasn't... Stuff like that. Don't do it. Yeah, so for me it was really fun because it was so random, a lot of it, but in a good way, and finding those beats and what's going on in her head at any given moment, and sort of being able to play with that stuff for me was really fun in the beginning and has continued to be so fun. Of course, the stuff with Hardison and her is fun for me. Aldous, I know John said I'm his favorite, by the way. Just saying.